Hello, first graders! It's time for writing our phonics letters. Before I start, I want to give you a reminder that we are not doing our phonics in our writing journals. Writing journals are for writing stories. Phonics needs to be done on a different paper. I have a spiral notebook that I got from my supply list. And I just put lines on here. You can use any other paper if you have dotted line paper, whatever you want to use except for your writing journal. We don't want that to run out before the end of the first semester. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. Make sure you're sitting up straight. Your stomach's touching your desk and your back is touching the back of your chair. Making sure you're holding your paper. Our first sound is D. Say it with me. D. We're going to start at 2 o'clock. Go around the clock. Up to the top line, down to the bottom line, making sure you have that tiny tent right there. D. Going around the clock, up to the top line, down to the bottom line. D. Around, up, down. D. Around, up, down. D. I noticed this one. I don't know if you can see it, but it's floating a tiny bit. So that one is not perfect. We want to make sure all of our letters are perfect during phonics. If you have not gotten to the end of the line like I have, go ahead and push pause. All right, our next sound is B. Say it with me. B. Now the difference between the D and the B is that the D is going to start with the clock letter starting at 2 o'clock, and the B pulls straight down. You're going to trace it up. You're going to go around the clock and give it a little tuck. Tuck it in there. So straight down, up, around the clock, and tuck. Down, up, around the clock, and tuck. Down, up, around the clock, and tuck. And we say B. B. Making sure that this clock part is not above the dotted line. And you want to make sure that it's not hanging down below the dotted line either. So if you've not gotten to the end of the line, go ahead and push pause now and finish your B's all the way to the end. All right, our next sound is going to be Qu. Say it with me. Qu. Do you remember the rule for these two letters? The rule is you never see a Q without a U. So we're going to start here at 2 o'clock. Around the clock, back up to the 2. Make sure you pull straight down to that next line and diagonally up. Remember, this needs to have a little point. Ouch! A little point. And then our U, we go down, around the bottom of the clock, up, and pull straight down and leave a tiny tent. Q, U, they should be nice and close together. Then we do a finger space. Around the clock, back up to 2, straight down with a point. And then my U goes around the bottom of the clock, straight down. It should be nice and fat. Qu. Down, up. My U's nice and fat. Qu. You're not going to do as many because they're a little bit bigger, but I was able to fit at least 4. So do your QUs to the end of the row. If you haven't done them, push pause. The next sound is S, Z. Say it with me. S, Z. Nice. We start at 2 o'clock, over the top of the clock, diagonal around the bottom of the clock. S, Z. Over the top, diagonal around the bottom. Over the top, diagonal around the bottom. S, Z. S, Z. S, Z. Making sure it's not hanging down and it's not above that dotted line. S, Z. And making sure it's also not too skinny. So if you've not gotten to the end of the row of S's, go ahead and push pause now. All right. Our next sound is ah, oh, oo. Say it with me. Ah, oh, oo. Nice. This is just our regular clock letter starting at 2, around the clock, stopping at 2. 2, around the clock, stopping at 2. Making sure it's nice and fat. And as we do it, we say ah, oh, oo. Ah, oh, oo. Ah, oh, oo. Nice job, friends. So if you have not gotten to the end of the line, push pause. Our next sound is G, J. Say it with me. G, J. Okay, this is going to be our G, starting at 2, around the clock to 2. But remember, we pull straight down, and that tail goes around the bottom of the clock. That tail should be nice and big. Starting at 2, around the clock to 2, straight down, around the clock for the tail. And as we do it, we say g, j, g, j, g, j. Nice and big tail. I think I can do one more. G, j. Nice job. So if you have not gotten to the end of the line yet, go ahead and push pause. All right. Our next sound will be k, s. Say it with me. K, s. Remember, that's our C, and sometimes the C says s. So we start at 2 o'clock, around the clock, and stop at 4. So it looks a lot like our O, but our C has a little hole in it. Okay, 2 o'clock, around the clock to 4. 2 o'clock, around the clock to 4. 2, around to 4. 2, around to 4. And we say k, s, k, s. Nice job, my friends. Nice job. All right, our next sound is a, ah. Say it with me. A, ah. We're going to go ahead and write it, starting at 2 o'clock, around the clock to 2, pull straight down. 2, around to 2, pull straight down. We want that tiny little tent. Around to 2, pull straight down. We say ah. A, ah. Making sure your letters are not going above the dotted line and they're not hanging down. Ah. If you have not finished your A's, go ahead and push pause now. I need to do one more line here for my last letter. All right, our last sound. Oh, that was our last sound. So we are going to write a word. Go ahead and get your fist ready, and we are going to do the sounds together. Here we go. We're going to say the word bog. Bog. Sometimes you might call it something like a mud bog. Might be like, has a bunch of mud and maybe trucks go through it. So it's the word bog. Fist is up. Here we go. So we have b, a, g, bog. Say it with me. B, a, g. Nice. So for b, use the b sound. For a, use a, o, u. And then use g, j. Go ahead and write it on this next line. Bog. Bog. Okay, so remember, a B starts with the stick, straight down, around the clock, and tuck. Then we have ah. I said use ah, o, u, and it's the first sound of ah, o, u. And then we have g, around the clock, back up to 2, pull down, and go around the clock. Bog. Bog. Nice job. If you wrote B-O-G, give yourself a star. If not, then you'll want to write that now. Okay. What happens if we change just the last letter? Sometimes we change the first letter, sometimes we change the last letter. We know that B-O says b-ah. Instead of a g, what if we changed it to the s, an S sound? Let's see. I wonder what that word's going to be. Let's see. B. A. S. Let's try that again. B. A. S. You know what? I need to get my motor running. I can't go b. A. S. I need to start blending it together. Blend it with me. B. So we go b. A. S. Oh. B-a-s. Go ahead and see if you can write the letters that you think you hear in that word. It's going to start with B-O. Pull straight down, up, around, and tuck. We know the O starts at 2, around to 2 o'clock. B-a-s. That is our S sound. Now I'm going to tell you something. Sometimes an S works by himself. Sometimes he brings his twin. So in this word, he actually has a twin, and he doesn't, the twins work together. They don't all talk, so it doesn't go s. There's no s. They work together and they make one sound. They just say s. together. So we have boss, boss. Like, who is the boss? Woo, I'm the boss. Just kidding. This is the word boss. Give yourself a star if you were able to write the word boss. Nice job today, friends. I can't wait to see you tomorrow to do some more phonics.